All right, I'm going to say it quickly, and straightforward. After processing some things that was given to me by God, ultimately, God is God, and He can do anything. When you look at things like polarity and all these other laws are not restricted, or phi is not restricted to those laws. So just because you have light and then you have dark, it's not something that has got to be. It is the way things are for now, but it's not something that has to be that way, because God does what He wants to do. You can see this reality in Metatron's cube, and how Metatron's cube is able to fit almost every element except a few. This is a testimony to that fact, to the fact that God does not have to obey or stay within certain constraints and yet stay loving. Only the restraints that He put on Himself is what He has to uphold. Anything else in creation, He doesn't have to obey those laws. And I have been a person trying to solve a particular issue, and I couldn't figure out an inevitable calamity. And it was done, this process does have to do with Armageddon, and how Adam and Eve at first were perfect. Then we have many years, and how those years were negative, and respecting polarity gets better and better, and then worse and worse in some areas. And then we have a moment of what Armageddon would be, is the polarity, right? And then all good versus the time of bad, which is still a moment of polarity. But how could we get out of that without the negative coming back, without satisfying the calamities that were going to happen? And even in those things, which I'm telling you, and it's a mind buster, because when you think within the constraints of polarity, it has to do these things. What He revealed is that He doesn't have to do those things. It doesn't matter. It never did. Because God is God. And that's the true answer of His sovereignty and who He is. He does what He wants. So, even though I, at every angle I could possibly think of, saw certain possibilities that were inevitable, it's still, God still is beyond that. And it was a lesson that I had to learn, and it helped me. And of course, I hoped and believed that that's what it was, but I couldn't analyze and understand how that could work out mathematically. But, I learned that, well, he showed a mathematical principle, and it is true. I mean, because phi has no mathematical, even though it does have elements of polarity, because it is what it is and it continues on no matter what. Polarity loses its grasp on phi, which means that he is not constrained to it, and it's only something that is temporary. He'll maintain whatever he wants to maintain and get rid of whatever he wants to get rid of. He does not have to compensate with himself on everything, if that makes sense mathematically. So, I hope that you understand. It's much deeper than you have to understand that, because in compensation, it is what it is. Something can't come from nothing, but God can always create something from nothing, which breaks that rule and law. So it's not a law that God has to have to abide by or obey. All right? Y'all hold it down.